Welcome to MS Quick Bits. This video is about responsibility accounting. So the objectives of this video is hahatiin natin into three parts. So the first part is the concepts of responsibility accounting. So let us start. Responsibility accounting is defined as the management control system that measures and reports financial performance based on individual areas or responsibility within the organization. Sa madaling salita, yung isang organization, hinahati-hati natin into several divisions which we have managers that would make decision regarding their operations. And those types of centers or division is now what we call responsibility centers or accountability centers. Now, before we determine what's the definition of that, why do we have to implement this type of responsibility accounting? Well, this is implemented if the organization is under the structure that what we call decentralized organization. At kapag sinasabi nating decentralized organization, ito yung siniseparate natin yung divisions or the organization into more manageable units, wherein each unit will be managed by someone who is given the authority, responsibility, and accountability dun sa segments or divisions na yan. Now, those each units na binabanggit natin dito is now what we call once again the responsibility centers and or the other term is accountability center. Now, take note, dahil decentralized ang organization natin, still what we want is whatever is the top management goals, yun din yung magiging interest ng mga managers sa responsibility centers na yun. We want their interests and goals to be aligned. And with this is now what we call goal congruence. And the process to do this, the process of doing the things that could align the manager's interest and the top management goal, we call it management by objectives. But there is a possibility also na hindi mag-align yung goals nila, which means the manager, inuuna niya pa yung interest ng sarili niyang division or segment kaysa sa interest of the whole organization. And if this will happen, we have what we call sub-optimization. Now with this, bakit ini-implement pa rin natin ang decentralized type of organization? Because there are a lot of benefits with that. And that benefit includes this mnemonic, hindi ko na siya babanggitin. Ayan. So the first one is E, which means enhanced competition. So this means that the segments or divisions in the organization are competing with one another with the same goal that it will be able to maximize or obtain the objectives of the top level managers. Next is A, awareness of needs. Because the managers are responsible for their own divisions, they are becoming more aware of the needs, their resources, or even the needs of their employee. And because of that, it might give us timely resolution dun sa mga issues within the division. Next is T, which means timely response. So sabi nga natin, timely yung magiging resolution natin because if there are problem arising within the division, the manager will be the one accountable or make the decision. Hindi na natin kailangan hintayin yung sasabihin ng top-level managers. Next is ME, which means motivate employees. This motivates employees because they think that they are doing something bigger than themselves because giving them authority or responsibility, it makes them empowered so that it motivates them. And lastly, faster, which means faster development. Nino? Nung ating managers. Because the managers are now handling their own team. They are responsible and accountable for their own actions. It is serving as a training for them for a higher level position. So that is now the benefits of decentralization. Now, additionally, of course, kung merong benefits, meron din namang drawbacks yung decentralization. And some drawbacks in here is some decisions made in one subunit may affect the other subunits of the organization. Take note that their activities are interrelated with one another. So, if one manager's interest is only in its division, it might be detrimental or disadvantageous for the other departments. Next is necessitates more elaborate reporting system because we have different types of responsibility centers. It also provides different reports. So, mas marami yung report na ginagawa natin. And another is there is a possibility of redundancy ng job or should I say job duplication because each department, they have their own managers and possibly they have their own different staff that could be pwede sana na isa na lang yun for the whole organization. Okay, so there are possibility of job duplication or overlapping of the functions. Now with this, let us continue our concepts with responsibility center. When we say responsibility center, we are looking at what is the responsibility of that manager. Okay, and those responsibility can either be any or combination of these items. So it may be incurrence of cost, generation of the revenue, or the use of their capital assets. Now, when a manager is only responsible into the incurrence of the cost, ibig sabihin, ang tawag sa kanya ay cost center. Okay? And one typical example of a cost center is production or support units. Kaya sometimes the other term that we use for cost center is service centers. Parehas lang po yung ibig sabihin nila. Now, what if the manager is responsible for the generation of the revenues only? And that is now what we call a revenue center. Now, one typical type of revenue center is when it is focused on selling functions either by product line or geographic areas. Kaya sometimes, lalo na if the problem is silent, an example of this is yung sales department or sometimes sales agencies are considered as a revenue center. Now, another, what if the responsibility center or the manager is responsible for the incurrence of cost and generation of revenue, pero not on the capital asset. So, dahil revenue and cost, that will be profit center ang ibig pong sabihin niya. And lastly, what if the manager is responsible for all of this item? This is now what we call an investment center. Now, what is the reason kung bakit natin hinihiwalay ang responsibility centers into these 4 different types of center? Because the rationale of that is because of the concept of behind responsibility center, and that is participation and substantial control. With participation, managers are more motivated because they are the one who can set the guidelines, policies, or standards within their division. And when we say substantial control, we want to determine what are the items na kayang ma-influensyahan ng managers natin. Kaya under responsibility accounting, papasok ulit yung concepts na controllable or non-controllable cost on revenues. Okay? And sabi rin dito, we should only determine or evaluate the performance of the manager based on the items that they can control. With that, balikan natin yung ating responsibility centers. Now, with the performance evaluation part in this, take note that when we talk about incurrence of cost and generation of revenue, normally you can see that in the income statement. Kaya ang ginagawa natin dito to evaluate their performance is the managers will create their performance report. And while sa investment center, makikita mo, siya lang yung naka-check pagdating sa use of capital asset. Wala na sa iba. Kaya in order to evaluate the performance with the use of the capital asset, we have the other performance tools, which includes the return on investment, residual income, and economic value added computations. And with that, pag-usapan muna natin yung performance report. When we say performance report, this is the end product of responsibility accounting process. And normally, it is provided in a contribution margin format income statement. Now, normally, what you can see in the performance report is the actual performance and the budgeted, planned, or standard performance of the division or the responsibility center. And normally, kapag cost center yan, puro cost lang ang nakalagay. Kapag revenue center yan, puro revenues lang. Kapag naman po profit center and investment center, both revenues and cost yung nakikita mo sa isang performance report. And normally, what we do with performance report is this is where we determine the performance of the segment and also performance of the manager. Kaya makikita mo, to determine performance, you compare actual versus the budget or the standard. And with this, you will be able to get or to see the variances in their performance. And with that, let us see paano ba natin nire-report ang isang performance report. So sabi natin, we follow the contribution statement format. But in this case, hindi lang yan ang nire-report natin. We expand the details. Let's start with the cost portion. So as to sale, as is lang po yan. Pero as to our total variable cost, as we know, variable cost can be classified as a variable product and a variable period cost. Now, in cases wherein we deduct the variable product cost from our sale, what you will get is the product contribution margin. And if ever we also deducted the variable period cost, that's the time that you will be able to get the contribution margin. And with this, the other cost that we're going to look at is the total fixed cost. Because a total fixed cost, a total fixed can be traceable or direct in the operations of these segments, or pwede namang this is just an allocated cost. So in cases that we are talking about traceable, or the other term once again is direct fixed cost, this cost can be controlled or not controlled by our manager. So it means if the traceable fixed cost is controlled and you deduct it from the contribution margin, this is now what you get is the short-run performance margin. And in cases that you will also deduct the non-controllable traceable fixed cost, you will be able to get the segment margin. And of course, to get your net income, we just deduct the allocated cost. Yan, to get the net income once again. So, ganito po yung proper presentation ng ating performance report. Nakikita mo that we classified our cost differently. Kasi the purpose of responsibility accounting is to evaluate the performance of the manager and the segment. Now, in cases that you want to determine the performance of the manager, you will have to evaluate the manager based on the short-run performance margin. Kasi lahat ng items that you already deducted are direct and controllable costs. But in cases that you want to determine the performance of the segment, ang gagamitin mo naman to analyze is the segment margin. Kaya kung mapapansin mo, sometimes, lalo na sa relevant costing, no, whether we will eliminate or shut down a division or segment, ang ginagamit natin is the segment margin portion. Aligned siya with responsibility accounting concepts. Now, Miss, bakit ganon? Bakit natin kailangan i-measure ang performance ng segment based on segment margin level, not on the net income? Tingnan natin, no? So, let's have here an example. So, example, you have 3 branches. Ilalagay ko na lang yung total sa ating segment margin. And these are the different segment margins of the 3 branches. And you also have the total amount. Now, with the allocated cost, according to the company, the allocated cost will be 900,000 pesos. And the allocation of that 900,000 pesos, nakadepende po yan sa top-level management, paano nila i-allocate. Now, for example, the allocation is equal basis tayo. So, it means we will divide it into 3, and that will be an equal allocation for all of our branches. So, the net income of branch A will be 0, the net income of branch B will be 200,000, and branch C will be 150,000, and that will lead us with a total of 350,000 pesos. Now, what if we want to evaluate the performance of the branches? Pero mali yung ginamit natin for evaluation. Nag-focus ka sa net income instead of the segment margin. And because of this, you identify that branch A net income is 0. So, what are you going to do? You are going to eliminate that segment or that branch. At dahil in-eliminate mo siya, matatanggal yung any revenues and costs directly related to that branch. So, what will happen now is, the other branches na lang yung magsusurvive. But still, you can see the allocated cost will be the same because that is not related to the operations of branch A. At dahil dalawa na lang yung branches na meron ka, dalawa na lang ang paghahatian nitong 900,000 na yan. So, it means equally distributed to branch B and branch C. And with that, makikita mo yung impact nun sa net income nila. Si branch B magiging 50,000, si branch C magiging 0. At ngayon, anong gagawin mo? Mag-e-evaluate ka ulit. In-evaluate mo, nakita mo, ang basis ng evaluation is the net income dahil 0 si branch C, papatayin mo ulit yung segment or should I say, i-eliminate mo ulit yung segment. At ganito yung nangyayari dahil mali yung way ng pag-evaluate natin. Whether a segment will be continued or discontinue, pinapatay natin ng pinapatay yung mga segment natin kahit na hindi naman talaga dapat gawin. At yung term or yung phenomenon na yon, ang tawag natin doon is death spiral. Tatanggalin mo nang tatanggalin yung segment mo hanggang sa wala nang matira, you will be bankrupt or incur losses. That is why it is very important to determine how we are going to evaluate the performance of the segment. And the best way for evaluation, once again, is our segment margin level. Now, Miss, kung ganun pala, bakit pa rin natin pine-present yung allocated cost of the segments? Because that will satisfy external reporting purposes. Because for external reporting, sinasabi natin that those costs must be presented or reported in each segment. Okay? So with that, that is the format or that is the concept related to our performance report. Now, going back to our items, no? Okay na tayo with the performance report. Let's continue with the other tools that we use to evaluate performance of an investment center. At dito tayo magko-focus sa return on investment, residual income, and the economic value added. So let us start with the return on investment. Return on investment measures the profitability of our investment. Kaya nga siya sinabing return eh. And the return on the investment is the profit itself. And the purpose of doing this is to evaluate the manager's performance based on the returns of that investment. So it means the higher the return of investment, the better the performance of that manager or the segment. Now, how do we compute for the return on investment? The computation is very simple. That is the return, which is the operating income, divided by the investment, which is coming from our total asset or the average total asset. In cases na hindi binigay ang average total asset, pwede mong gamiting denominator, invested capital. Same lang sila ng ibig sabihin. Capital lang yung ginagamit nating term for financial management purposes. Now, with this, we can expand the computation of return on investment by looking at the profit margin that is equivalent to the operating income divided by the net sale. And that is multiplied by your asset turnover, which is equivalent to your net sale divided by your average total asset. So, dito nanggaling yung computation natin ng return on investment. Kapag minultiply mo sila, since the net sales is in the denominator side, and the other one, net sales is in the numerator side, magka-cancel out lang sila. Kaya ang matitira still is the operating income over the average total asset. And this analysis is now what we call the DuPont analysis. Now, why do we have to do this? Because this will show us two fundamental issues in our management. Dito mo malalaman saan nagkulang or saan tayo dapat mag-investigate. Sa profit ba or sa usage ng ating asset? Because under profit margin, it will show us the cost and profit management done by that manager. Well, when we talk about asset turnover, this will show us the sales and asset management. Gaano ka-efficient si manager na i-utilize yung ating assets to generate sales. Okay, so ito yung dalawang fundamental management issues that will be addressed using DuPont analysis. Now, with this information, let us try to have this example. So, we have ABC Corporation has two divisions, X and Y. The company's management wants to evaluate each division's performance to make investment decisions. Below are the relevant details for each division. You have Division X and Division Y. Provided to you is the operating income, the invested capital, and the required rate of return of each division. Now, for our first item that we have to compute is, syempre, the return on investment. So, let's compute together the return on investment of Division X and Division Y. Sabi natin, the return on investment is equivalent to our operating income divided by your invested capital, or the other term is the average total asset. So, with this, for Division X, that is 1.2 million divided by 10 million. You will get the ROI equivalent to 12%. And for Division Y, that will be the operating income of 900,000 divided by the invested capital of 8 million pesos. You will get the ROI of 11.25%. Now, if you're going to compare the performance of these two organizations, saan ang may mas mataas na ROI? Dito sa Division X. So, pwede mong sabihin that mas maganda ang performance na Division X kaysa kay Division Y. Pero take note, hindi lang dapat ROI ang magiging basis natin ng computation. Because there are other tools na baka mamaya iba yung maging interpretation. And that is the usage or the residual income computation. So, tingnan natin dito. Under residual income, that is the income an investment earned above a minimum return. And the purpose of this is to measure the performance by the amount of income generated over the required returns. Anong ibig sabihin nun? When we do or we have capital investment, may pinanggalingan niyang assets mo. At pwedeng nanggaling yan sa liabilities or equity. And those two, may tinatawag tayong cost or return na hinihingi from us. And with that, what we want on the residual income is we will be able to generate revenues, or should I say net income, more than the returns na hinihingi sa atin kung saan man nanggaling yung capital mo. That is why the computation of the residual income is equivalent to the difference of your operating income, which is pwede nating makompute yung operating income as return on investment multiplied by the average total asset. Or pwede rin naman yung usual way mo lang ng pag-compute ng operating income. And it will be deducted with our required income. Once again, ano po bang ibig sabihin ng required income? So let us analyze. This is the minimum amount of income that an organization expects to earn from its invested capital, also referred as the required return. So ito yung binabanggit ko sa'yo. Saan ba? Ano bang ibig sabihin ng invested capital? That is equivalent to your total asset, which is that total asset may be coming from the incurrence of liability or investment through equity. At alam naman natin, kapag ikaw nangutang, may interest kang babayaran. Kapag ikaw may additional investment, may dividends ka kailangan bayaran. And those interests and dividends is now the cost of the capital. And that cost of capital is presented as a rate, which is now the minimum required rate of return from that investment. At yun po yung basis ng required income natin. What we mean by required income is the minimum required rate of return multiplied by the average total assets. So that's it. Well, the other computation of residual income, upo lang ako, no? Is pwede namang gamitin mo, the return on investment minus the minimum required rate of return. Ito yon yung dalawang pinapakita natin. You will get the differences in the rate. If your answer is positive, ibig sabihin yan, mas mataas yung return on investment or the operating income kaysa sa required income. And if that's positive, multiply it with the average total asset, you will also have a positive residual income. Kapag naman to negative, ibig sabihin, the difference in the rate is negative, it means mas malaki pa yung required return kaysa sa return of your investment. So it means that will provide you a residual loss. Okay? So yun yung titingnan natin. This is your alternative computation for this residual income. And with this, let us once again compute using these statements. Ito ulit yun. Kukumpitin lang natin using residual income computation. And let's start with division X. So for division X residual income, that is equivalent to your operating income minus the required income. For your operating income for division X, that is already provided in the problem, the 1.2 million pesos. Or alternatively, pwede mo yan computin with the ROI na nakuha natin kanina, 12% times the invested capital, 10 million, makukuha mo pa rin 1.2 million. Well, the required income will be based on your minimum or the required rate of return already provided in the problem, the 10% multiplied by the invested capital of 10 million. You will get the required income of 1 million pesos. Now, get the difference between the two. That will be equivalent to 200,000 pesos. Now, let's continue. How about kay Division Y? For Division 1, the operating income is 900,000 and the required income is equivalent to the required rate of return of 8% multiplied by 8 million pesos invested capital. You will get 640,000 pesos. And with that, the residual income of Division Y is 260,000 pesos. Ngayon, kung ginamit mo yung residual income, ano ang mas maganda ang performance ng division? Di ba naging si Division Y? Okay, kaya yon, be careful with using the performance evaluation tools of our investment center. You must look at not just only the ratios, you may also look at the residual income computation to make better decisions. Ang pinapakita once again sa residual income is the excess of the performance or excess of the operating income over the required income, which is for me a better indicator of the performance evaluation. Kasi pwedeng yung ROI niya positive nga pero equal lang sa required income. So, ibig sabihin, pag ganun, wala kang residual income. You did not go beyond the performance that is expected from you. Okay? So, that is the concepts of residual income. Now, let us continue. Sabi natin, there is another way to compute for the residual income, and that is getting the difference in the rate first. So, for division X and Y, once again, the ROI, ito yung na-compute natin kanina. And then deduct the minimum required rate of return of 10% and 8% respectively, you will get the difference in the rate. And just multiply it with the average total asset or the invested capital, you will be able to get the same answer for the residual income. And that's it for residual income computation. Now, let's go with the next one, which is the economic value added. This is just a more specific type of residual income computation because with this, it is a measure of the company's financial performance based on residual wealth, diba? Same lang. Pero with this one, we account for the taxes. That is why the purpose of this is to assess managerial performance by value creation over capital cost. Technically, di ba, same na same lang. Kaso nga, the only difference is that we account for taxes. So, it means if we are going to see it side by side, for the residual income, we use operating income, which is their earnings before interest and taxes. But for economic value added, it will be transformed to your earnings before interest but after taxes. Well, the other term na ginagamit dito ni Sir Rad sa prereq is NOPAT, the net operating profit after tax. So, same lang po sila ng ibig sabihin. While for the required income, kanina, ang ginagamit natin is required income. Dito, ganun din naman yung term of the required income. You will still get the economic value added. But the concept of the required income becomes different because that required income will now be the weighted average cost of capital multiplied by the difference of your total assets minus your current liability. So, weighted average cost of capital, because with this, we account for the after-tax cost of debt. Because kung alam naman natin, the interest expense or payment that we're going to do with our liabilities are tax deductible. Kaya kailangan after-tax yung presentation niya. While the equity component is not after-tax naman. So, what we do is to weight those capital or the cost of capital. And this portion of WACC will be discussed further under long-term financing. And syempre, what we do is total assets minus current liabilities. Bakit po ganyan? Kasi nga, di ba, saan ba nanggaling yung wealth natin? That will be coming from your non-current liability and your equity component. Okay? Kaya, makikita mo kapag dineduct mo yung total asset with the current liabilities, makukuha mo is the value of your non-current liabilities and your shareholders' equity. Okay? And with that, you will be able to once again get the economic value added. So with this, let us have a computation. Okay? So we have your LGM company has 2 division, MNY, and the information for division N is as follows. So pinakita ko na agad yung sagot. Okay? So we have we have to compute for the economic value added. For the EBIT, which is the earnings before interest but after taxes, mapapansin mo, ang binigay sa problem is operating income of the division. Eh, alam naman natin kapag operating income yung term at binigyan ka ng tax rate sa baba, ibig sabihin, that is before tax. So, what you have to do is to make it after tax. Kaya ang ginawa natin sa computation is the 65,000 multiplied by 1 minus the tax rate. You will get the EBIT of 45,500. And for the required income, once again, what we're going to use is the weighted average cost of capital. And the good thing here, binanggit niya na after tax siya. So that is it, the 12%. And multiply it by the difference of your total assets, which is already provided, the 300,000 pesos minus your current liabilities for the division of 40,000 pesos. And with that, you will get the answer of 31,200. Ayan, given na. And with this, you will have an economic value added of 14,300. And that's it for the first part of responsibility accounting. So this is our reminders. So with that, responsibility accounting is a system of accounting that segments financial performance by specific managers, department, division, and holding them accountable for the revenues and expense under their control. So once again, the goal of responsibility accounting is to align manager's objective with the organizational goal. At ang tawag natin doon is goal congruence. And the process of doing that, once again, is management by objective. Now, next is that return on investment help us to evaluate how well a company or division is using its asset to generate income, while the residual income will encourage more long-term value creation by focusing on the income above the required return. And lastly, for economic value added, it focuses on creating shareholders' value by considering the true cost of capital and assessing long-term financial health. And with this, that is all for responsibility accounting. Our next topic is transfer pricing.